Hi, family. Hello, family of witches. I'm hoping all of you all are doing fine, and I decided that I was going to do a little rap and stuff for you all today. How about that? I did this just for my family. Now, the title of this video, and you know me, I may change it. I move with the spirit, is Get Your Demons Under Control, or Get Your Demons in Check. Guess what? When you do that, you can have a much better, prosperous life here on this earth ship. Don't you think so? Okay. Now, I want every last one of you all to know what I am talking about right now is my own personal experience. Okay? I need you to know that. Know that I'm only the messenger. Number 2. I am not talking about anyone in particular but me. Okay? This video about me. And the last video I did was also about myself. Because I said once before in that video, that last video, remember the video? It's not them, it's you. That was for me. And I was only talking about myself. But if you find yourself somewhere within this message, then there's some things you gotta do. Because I'm only speaking about me. Okay? Because, and tell you the truth, everything is about me. When each and every video I make is about myself. Because guess what? You all are the mirror to me. And I am the mirror to you. See, I don't think I was able to effectively, you understand, convey that message. I don't think y'all heard me. But every single person that comes into your face to face, you understand, is a mirror. So you can't be upset with anyone that you have a negative conversation with or have a negative response to. You cannot be angry with that person because they are trying to teach you something about yourself. Again, we are all teachers. And we come to teach the student. We are all students learning from the teacher. Okay? I don't think nobody heard me. Because, see, I'm trying to get comfortable, y'all. And I'm trying to look glorious at the same time, too. That is very uncomfortable. But look, a little bit of humor. Once you realize what I'm trying to teach you, then you can get some control over those demons. Okay? And witches, we really need to be listening right now because witches have more demons than the average. I don't know, you might want to call yourself a shaman, a prophetess, or a prophet or whatever. But for me, myself, I'm only talking about what I call y'all, okay? So you can have whatever opinion you want to have about it. But this is my channel, and this is the way I choose to label you all. If you're an artist, a painter, a sculptor, if you are a preacher, okay? If you are any of these things, you're a witch to me, okay? We come with a lot of baggage from past lifetimes. We come here with a lot of adversities. Did I say that right? Adversaries. Let me straighten that out. We come with more than the average person, to whom much is given, much is required. So when we're presenting ourselves as the supernaturalist, you understand, with these powers, these gifts, you understand, we have to conduct ourselves accordingly. When we get out of line and we stray off, people will tend to be a little bit more harsh with us than others. Because again, to whom much is given, much is required. Don't you forget that. And everything you do, whether it be in life itself, with your family, with your friends, in social media, you best better believe if you fuck up, ain't nobody gonna forget it. Be careful how you represent yourself out here. Because guess what? If you are in a position of leadership or authority, in a sense, you know, witches are in a position of authority, they're not going to let you forget your fuck-ups. And you can't walk away and say, oh, you know, you all ought to be ashamed of how you all, you know, crucified me and burned me to the stake. I'm talking about all over around witches, prophetess, psychics, supernaturalist. I'm covering a broad spectrum. You have not the right, you understand, to put anything out, and when it comes back, you cut it off. You can't do that because your demons are not going to allow you to walk away. Your hands won't be clean. They will make sure you are held accountable for them. So that's why you have to keep them in check. Watch your behavior. If you put it out there, they're not going to allow you to forget it, and you should take accountability. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking to nobody else. Yes, I've put myself out there, and I have betrayed myself in a light that you understand, went back and decided, hey, you know, this was not good for me. And when people mirrored it back to me, I had no right to retaliate on it, to back away from it. I was in the seat of accountability. And I can say right now today that, hey, look, I was wrong, and I must, you understand, gather up all of those remnants of words and emotions back unto myself so that I can evaluate those and get my demons in check. It's a thing now. You just cannot say the things that you don't mean. Because you got to say what you mean and mean what you say. That is the gospel truth. If you want to talk about anything religious, that's the gospel truth. Y'all, I'm 50 years old come next year. Let me see how many more months. That's just so many months from now, because this year's are over. If I live to see 2017, I'll be 50. So you looking at some wisdom. I'm a half a century old. So I'm trying to give you some jewels to put in your bag so you won't have to go through what I've gone through. trying to figure this shit out, trying to master myself, which I always talk about the fact we'll never master ourselves unless you're ready to complete your journey. And then sometimes mastery, once we master here in this particular plane, we can eventually be gods. Be with the light beings. Be gods in the center of light, which you're going to do that anyway, but you can be a master in the center of light once you've graduated to that plane. And I myself personally, I know there's a lot of work to be done, so I know I will be coming back. You're going to come back over and over again until you eventually learn. So we have to learn how to control our demons, or you can say control your emotions, because emotions are demons. They're spirits. They are. There's no difference between angels and demons. They're just about the same. I've seen, a beautiful angel just melt down into something that was disfigured. We call disfigurement and ugliness demons, demonic, evil, or whatever. We've been taught that lie. That's another thing. You got to realize everything you were taught in school was not necessarily the truth. So it's time for you now as an adult to go outside and learn. You understand? Educate yourself the truth. Do not rely heavily on the Bible to reveal those truths. You have to find your own truth. And always remember that the truth is not outside of you. It's inside of you. So I said all of this to say I do not have the right, you understand, to portray myself in a situation of vulnerability after I have myself disturbed my reputation. And I do not have within that moment of portraying myself as being vulnerable the right to go out and persecute people who place judgment on behavior that was totally unacceptable of myself. And in doing so, I get my demons in check. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. You're going to be challenged every day. People are going to challenge you. People are going to mirror your personality back to yourself. And you got to figure out a way as to how to, make some peace with those demons. And I always say an apology is always, you understand, one of the first steps to redemption. You understand? You must, first of all, take that accountability and say, hey, look, I want all of you all to know that I, myself, have wronged myself. Not wronged you, but wronged myself personally. A lot of people want forgiveness from others, and they can't understand why they can't get it. You can't get it because, first of all, you have to forgive yourself. And until that is done, guilt will make a personal hell for you, an earthly hell. Because guess what? We create our own hells. Nobody has made your life a miserable Hades but yourself. You understand? I hope you all are understanding what I'm saying, because even though, excuse me, y'all know I need to pick with my hair. Even though it may sound so cheesy, if you are on a quest, you understand, for personal self-improvement so that you can enjoy the fruits of this wonderful life, because there's a wonderful life out there. I don't care how miserable you may be feeling right now, but there is a quest out there. If you're ready for some of that, it's time to get your demons in check. Because your personality can take you a long ways, but your personality can also lead you to a dead end. It ain't nobody's fault but your own. You can't blame that shit on nobody but your damn self. When you open yourself up to people and you show them those things that later on you may be embarrassed by, it ain't nobody's fault but your own. It ain't their fault. And they have the right to mirror it back to you. They have that right. And that's what they're going to do. Because it's all by design. This is a wonderful place we're living in. Sometimes it can be scary, man. Sometimes, on our journey, we're going to have some bumps in the road. We're going to have some accidents, man. We're going to have some fuck-ups. But it's up to you to be able to learn how to navigate. It ain't up to nobody else. Ain't nobody got to help you. I finally came to the a conclusion at 49. No one is coming to rescue me. I remember as a child, I cried a lot. I never will forget in grade school, kids become so harsh. By 5th grade, I say about 5th grade to 6th grade, that's when children really start mirroring other children and children mirroring children. And that's when they start showing you who you really are. And it was very difficult for me in the 5th grade because my mother was the type of mother that did not believe in name brands, and she didn't believe in a lot of things. And even though she was a school teacher, and I'm just going to be honest, this lady was a school teacher and she had a pretty decent income, and my father was a supervisor at a steel mill, and he had pretty good money, but she ruled the money. He wanted to do those kind of things for us and everything, but she didn't believe in that. And, so we would have to be creative with our clothing. And the other children, they were name brands, and they dressed like each other. It was like a rule of how to dress, and if you didn't follow the guidelines, which is what is in fashion, you will be ridiculed. So a lot of the times I was ridiculed, but now looking over the situation, because they were showing me something about myself, you know what I'm saying? And as children, it's very difficult, when you're being shown something about yourself. It's very hard because as a child, you really don't know how to necessarily, cope with that issue. But as you become an adult, you should be in a position to learn how to be able to, understand a situation like that and learn how to still be sociable. You understand? And realize, hey, look, this is something that they are showing me about myself. And at the same time, too, do I necessarily want to do exactly what they're doing so that I won't be ridiculed? Some of us learn how to, as adults, how to be able to conduct ourselves in situations like that. You know what I'm saying? But as children, some of us don't understand it. Some children are very bright. They understand it. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, too, it taught me how to be in a sense, how to be creative, because I was still able to, I started making my own clothes in the 5th grade. I would just get cloth and make things and stuff. And everybody would say, the good aspect of me, oh, girl, that's cute. How you did that? And I would take my tennis shoes and stuff, because my mom bought one pair of tennis shoes. They would last you. You would have to make those last a year. I know you always saying that's cruel. But at the same time, too, I've learned how to be creative. So I would paint my tennis shoes and put flowers on them. I was always a flower child, a hippie, forever, and I would paint flowers and rainbows and stuff on my tennis shoes and stuff. The kids would laugh, but there was always those kids who were creative like myself that gravitated to me, and we had our own circle. A lot of you all may say, oh, that's the misfit circle. Well, maybe that's what it was, but I was able to learn a lot lot from those children. And I learned a lot from those children too, who were into the fashion, the trend or whatever. I learned a lot from them too. You know what I'm saying? But I love unconditionally. Even though they were cruel to me, I was still able to still be kind and have an unconditional loving heart for these children. You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't get me wrong. Now, sometimes I had my fights. I had more fights with boys than girls because the girls were kind of more or less understanding than the guys and than the boys were, because the boys wanted you to look a certain kind of a way. I was always tall and skinny, very tiny. They used to call me olive oil, and the girls could be a little bit more forgiving of that than the boys. But what I'm trying to say is this right here. We gotta learn how, you understand, to make sure we're presenting ourselves in a manner where we can go back 5 years later and not be in a situation where we're trying to explain things that weren't appropriate to ourselves at the time. And you have to decide what's appropriate to you, what's acceptable to you, and what's not. Now, if you go out and you decide, hey, look, I want to be naked, I want to be topless, or whatever, and truly in your heart that is a conviction for you, you have absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. You know what I'm saying? At that particular time, that's how you felt. I don't see any shame in the human body or whatever. But if you come out and portray yourself as being, out there honestly with some loose screws out there, and your behavior is just really, really, morally drastically unacceptable in some kind of a way, because you got to decide what that is. You can't later on, you understand, persecute others because they make a judgment on that situation. All you can do is say, hey, I fucked up, man. I'm so embarrassed about that shit. Could y'all please forgive me? Now I'm ready to turn the page and I'm ready to move on, because I like I said, I found myself there in that seat, man. And that seat ain't comfortable. Now, I've gotten that out of the way. Getting them demons in check, man. Getting them in check, man, and taking control over them and not allowing them to embarrass you later on is very difficult. Now, I have my own situation here that I deal with. I have a difficult time sometimes, saying what I mean and meaning what I say. But I've had to practice that. What I want to talk about is, and I may be jumping around, is when you put yourself in a position to do some things and then people try to hold you to that and they expect that out of you. Just learning how to say no. That's also going back to those demons sometimes. Sometimes we think to bargain with those demons is to say yes a lot of the times, because saying yes is more easier sometimes than saying no. No is a very negative word for us at times. And no can sometimes feel very uncomfortable. It can make you feel a certain kind of a way. Y'all ever said no and just feel so fucking guilty, man? You gotta learn how to say no. We've been brought up as witches, no, we haven't been brought up to be witches, but as witches, most of our childhood has been, that type of childhood where we've been taught that, we should give, and not to is to be selfish. And so now as adults, we have a difficult time, just letting people know, hey, look, I can't do it. And it's a very uncomfortable situation that can leave you thinking over it for days and days. But it's better to say no than to say yes. Later on, have resentment towards the person that you said yes to. Later on, having to, come back and say, hey, look, I'm a little bit wishy-washy. I don't want to do this no more. It's very uncomfortable. So I always say no more than you say yes. And I know you're going to be uncomfortable, but you got to do it for a little while. You got to learn how to be a little bit selfish. You got to be selfish sometimes. You understand? And being selfish sometimes is putting you in a position of control. You can pretty much control what you want to put out, what you don't. Because some people are thieves. They will take you, not necessarily thieves. I mean, I can't say they're thieves if you're giving it to them. You know what I'm saying? You got some people that will won't. It's just like a all-you-can-eat buffet. And you have to put that in check. You understand what I'm saying? But anyways, I'll be back with more gems, a little bit more jewels to go in your travel bags, which is, I'm the wisdom witch here, okay? Been there, done that. You can trust and best believe everything I say is truth. Even when I get upset, put my curses out, because I will put my curses and hexes out when I feel needed. And like I say, if it's needed, you gotta do it. You can't come back later on and regret it. I put some curses out there and I stand by them. Because witches, you gotta know when it is time for it. And when it's time for it, you can't go back and regret it. Every curse, hex I've put out. You understand what I'm saying? I ain't fixing to be sitting down talking about, ooh, forgive me. No, I want them to remain there. And in some situations, until the day I die, the final death. Hello? Because I'm a wicked witch here. Wickedness for me only means honesty. You understand? Being firm. And not doing backbend tricks. Not doing all of that limber. All that limber in this and limber in there and here and there. Just being stern. And that's what people need. They need to see you being stern. That's what they need. And people want consistency. Because the moment you wish and wash on them, they best gonna believe put your ass in check. And that shit hard to come up out of. Especially when they got your ass on camera. Because they'll go back and play that shit. Yep, it's happened to me. But guess what? You can play it all day long. Because I'll make another video on it. I got somebody out here right now. I have a person out there right now. Everybody's showing it. Oh, look and see. He's got a problem with Mama Spirit Tree. He's got a problem with the fact she's a psychic. He feels like she's a fraud. He feels all these things, but this person, this is his job. This is what he's supposed to be. Everybody, mama, there's a man over there talking about you. Mama, he said you are a fraud. He don't like you and he angry with you. He's only doing what he came here to do, to mirror me. He's showing me something about myself. Now it's up to me to decide. After looking at that mirror, you understand, whether or not, you understand, I am going to react to it, feel some kind of a way about it, how I'm going to, what type of action I'm going to take about it. It's up to me to decide that. And everybody wants me to do something about it. I am not going to do anything about it because when I look at myself, I am work in progress. I am a student as well as a teacher. And there's going to be people that are going to come to teach you something. They're going to come to show you something. You understand? Am I all of these things? Well, guess what? It's up to the people who decides that they want who decide they want my service, you understand, to determine that. What you think? It's up to them. Because what you got to understand and realize, the people who do watch that video, there are going to be many people offering services out there. There are going to be many psychics. There's going to be many supernaturalists. There are going to be people who are offering themselves to be spiritual coaches, shamans. There are going to be a lot of people like that out there like that. But not everyone believes. And the people who don't believe have the right, if they want to judge us for it. But that does not stop us from believing in what we personally believe in. But I must be an example to show you all, and I love this man, and I can't even think his name, Taurus. I think his name is Taurus, Toris, We got to realize, as supernaturalists, that wisdom is allowing people to play their games and don't intervene. I am not going to intervene in anyone's game. I'm going to allow them to say what they say, but that's not going to stop me from offering my services, because I know that a lot of people don't believe in Christianity, so they're going to bash Christians. A lot of people don't believe in Catholics, so they're going to bash Catholics. A lot of people may not believe in traditional medicine or, and they're going to bash it. They're going to call psychics charlatans. You got a vast world of many believers, and the non-believers have the right to say, I don't believe. Isn't that fair? The good thing is you got somebody that's watching you, and you are making some kind of impression on them, whether it be negative, whether it be positive. You are being witnessed. You are being seen. You are teaching. Doesn't necessarily mean that they agree with your teachings or whatever, but you on the map. You understand? I saw this meme. That's what my daughter said they're called. I call them sayings or philosophies. And I saw one on Pinterest, and it said, you don't have haters. They're not your haters. They are just actually fans in denial. And I really like that. You don't have haters, you have fans in denial. Don't you forget that, okay? Get them demons under control, okay? So that you won't be embarrassed by yourself later on. Because I got an archive of videos. People can pull them up from way back in 2008. And that's what they're doing. They're pulling them up. Am I embarrassed by anything since 2008? Not what I got on file. No, I don't. And know this, you can take things that you embarrassed off a file, and people will still retrieve them. I don't necessarily tend to have that problem, because a lot of people don't like the truth. When you stare me in my face, you're looking at the truth. You understand? Okay? And like I say, y'all can take anything I got. You can make bloopers out of it. You can resurrect them to learn.